Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 119-116 win against the Atlanta Hawks. Sorry about the late podcast coming out today, but definitely a game we wanted to react to because I think this game was truly a testament to this Toronto Raptors team and the winning culture that we've just built up over the last few seasons, that championship DNA, because the Atlanta Hawks at home, they came out and played really well, came really gunning for the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors went through cold stretches where the ball just really wouldn't go through the hoop. People looked a bit tight at times, couldn't really get the offense going. Fred, Norm had a few turnovers, and Jabari Parker, he had a solid game, but DeAndre Hunter, Trae Young came out and really balled, especially DeAndre Hunter at the end of this one, but Trae with the 30-point triple-double, and the Hawks really want to win this one. They came out motivated, ready to go, and the Raptors, despite all the struggles, despite all the ugliness in this game, came out and got the W. And my biggest takeaway from this one is Pascal Siakam. Now, I've been reiterating on a consistent basis the Pascal Siakam watch. How has he developed this season into the number one option, and what tier of player is he establishing himself into? Because last season we saw he's a capable player of getting buckets on a consistent basis. He could be a scoring option for a team that is reliable. He's a reliable scoring option for a top-tier player, a team that wins the NBA championship. He was arguably the second or third option last season and showed that he has the intangibles to really take his game to a whole nother level. I think when a player shows that, they're showing their superstar potential. And we could think of a superstar as a fully blown, grown-out coniferous tree, a giant tree in a forest of NBA players, and once someone does what Siakam did last season, they're planting the seeds of a possible superstar. And I think players that have done that haven't really achieved superstar levels, all-stars like Chris Middleton, Tobias Harris, to name a couple, they're guys that have planted the seeds, shown that they can score at a high level, be all-stars, but haven't really reached that superstar. Their superstar tree hasn't really grown yet, despite showing the intangibles of a really, really good NBA player. Then that sort of evolves, and this was the expectation for Pascal Siakam to be, if the Raptors were going to have a successful season, Siakam had to evolve into a player that could, that tree grows a little bit. It's a baby tree in this forest of NBA stars. It can be a number one option when the defense is constantly honed in on you, and they can get you wins. These players are directly translating to number one option wins. They're surefire all-stars, and I think people would have looked at this season to be a success for Pascal Siakam if he showed to be that level. And I think throughout the beginnings of this season, he's certainly surpassed that expectation. He's averaging 26 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, ridiculous efficiency as the number one guy, taking a whole nother leap to his game. I think he's showing that he can be at that level, that DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry level. Remember when those guys were at their peaks when they were leading this roster? We made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We'd always have great records, and those guys, I want to say, ability to just get wins for this Toronto Raptors team. Not necessarily in the playoffs against LeBron James or anything like that, but consistently throughout, night in, night out, get the Toronto Raptors wins as number one options when the defense is completely focused on them. Those players are surefire all-stars and a tier above a lot of the really good players in the NBA. I think that's what the Toronto Raptors had for a very long time, and it's a reason we're so successful, and it's a true testament to those guys' ability, but they can never really get over the hump, and the hump was always LeBron James. Right now, the hump looks like it could be Giannis of the Bucks. It could be the Joel Embiid. That hump is looking to be built. We beat it last year, as obviously we had Kawhi Leonard. So there are some possible superstars that are looming in the Eastern Conference that the Raptors really have to be aware of if we want to make the NBA Finals, win another championship. And this is why I've been so locked in on Pascal Siakam, because we have the role players, we have the culture, we have the defensive schemes to be a championship roster. The only thing we're really missing right now is that NBA top-tier all-star number one guy. And if Pascal Siakam can become that, and I don't think he's there yet, I've consistently said that, and people agree in the comments, he's not a superstar. It's tough to expect him to be a superstar. I don't really, I'm not saying it's a failed season if he doesn't become Kawhi Leonard or something this season, but if the Toronto Raptors want to win a championship, we need Siakam to be at that level. I think that's a fair analysis to have, and watching these games, right, I think he's showing some things that are really promising in terms of his trajectory to that possible level, because I've said it consistently, the difference between the top tier all-stars and the superstars in the NBA is the superstars get you buckets when you need them. They go on runs when the offense is stagnant. Even when they're having bad games, they just find a way to turn it on. And tonight, Pascal Siakam started off kind of struggling, not necessarily struggling, but didn't take over the game right away. Let the rest of the roster kind of do their thing. But then when the Raptors needed to go on a run, when the Raptors needed a bucket tonight, Pascal Siakam got us that bucket. 34 points tonight, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a couple blocks, 11 of 18 from the field, 4 of 6 from the three-point line, and a lot of them were contested tough shots. It wasn't like he was just, the Hawks were playing horrible defense. Siakam really got us some big buckets tonight, and like a lot of those really good all-stars have on an occasional basis, showed that he played at a superstar level tonight. I think that's a fair thing to say, and for the Raptors to have success in the playoffs this season, we need Siakam to do that against all of the teams. So tomorrow, I'm really excited to see Siakam if he can continue this energy, because he did struggle in a couple of our losses this season against the Clippers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. Top tier caliber teams with length and all that sort of stuff. If Siakam can have this timely effectiveness against the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow, I think it's one step closer to becoming that player we need him to be on a consistent night in, night out basis to win a championship again. And when I bring this up, a lot of people in the comments kind of say, hey, that's way too unfair of expectations for Siakam. He's never going to be able to do that. And I'm not saying it's a failed season or Siakam's trash if he doesn't do that, but it's something to look for. I'm very high on, as I am a lot of Raptors players, I'm very high on his potential ability to evolve his game, and we've seen the progression he's made in past seasons. I don't think there's any reason that there should be a ceiling on Pascal Siakam right now. Whether he becomes that level right away, this season, that remains to be seen, but I'm very high on his future, and let me know in the comment section below. This is a huge Pascal Siakam rant, 7 minutes in, only talked about this guy, but I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I was really impressed with his performance tonight. But he wasn't the only guy on the court. Another guy I want to talk about, Norman Powell, 20 points for him, 8 of 15 from the field, knocking down his threes tonight, hit 3 of 8. But the thing about Norman Powell, it's always consistency, and I'd argue that the past few games, and yes, there are still some lulls in his game. He had a few turnovers. He makes some poor decisions every now and then, but he's mixing that with a lot of the great things we see Norman Powell do. And the biggest issue with Norm in the past, and the reason a lot of people flew off Norm Island, was he'd be absolutely amazing. Maybe a quarter of his games. He'd be ridiculously good. If people only watch those games, they'd be like, Norman Powell is going to be an all-star. I think that'd be a fair thing for people to say, because he's so athletic. He gets the rim really, really effectively. He knocks down threes when he's on fire. His ability to just slash and his athleticism, his defense on top of it. He's intangibly a really strong player. But the unfortunate thing is that 3/4 of the other times he's not looking super consistent. He's missing his open shots. He gets the rim always at will, it seems like, but just misses around the rim. So that just unpredictability really was off-putting for a lot of players, because Nick Nurse even brought up he wants players that are consistent. He wants Norm to be at a consistent median, and I think finally we're seeing that. I think this has been the most consistent stretch outside of the playoffs for Norman Powell, maybe in his NBA career, and he's starting right now. That could be a factor. That could be a very big factor at play. That's one thing I brought up in the preseason or the off-season previews for this year, that Norman Powell, if he gets the starting role, he'd probably be more consistent and be giving him this chance. Be interesting to see if he keeps it up when Kyle Lowry comes back, because it's going to be, I'd be very surprised if they bring Fred VanVleet to the bench, but the way Norman Powell's been playing, it's really encouraging to see him just have consistency. Yes, there's some lows in the games. He has some dumb turnovers, but you accept that, you embrace that, as long as you know you're getting those other positives from Norm. Great defense, ability to knock down open shots, and ability to slash the rim, get M1s, get nice dunks. And the Raptors are going to be way better off if Norm Powell can consistently play the level he's been playing the past 6-7 games. So shout out to Norm. Fred VanVleet, 25 points tonight, 9 assists, a great box score game. He was a plus 11 for the game, the highest plus minus for the Toronto Raptors, but 7 of 21 from the field, 2 of 9 from the three-point line. The shots weren't really going down, and he had a few turnovers as well, 5 turnovers. But when you watched him play, he did you could tell he was having a positive impact in running this team on the court. And it's tough to see him miss a lot of these shots. It's kind of the same criticisms I've been giving him throughout the season. Just got to be able to finish around the rim a bit better. He's been really consistent on his three-point shot all year, so that's not a critique, even though he went 2 of 9 tonight. He hits big shots. I love what I've seen from Fred VanVleet this year, and he's really thrived with Kyle Lowry outrunning the point guard position, showing that he could potentially be our future starting point guard. But we could dive into a whole video on Fred. Off the bench, Boucher, Rondae, Terrence, Matt Thomas. I don't know what to say. We got a new bench mob. The last video we made, we declared the Raptors officially have a new bench mob, and Boucher came in with 13 points, 5 of 7 from the field. Seems like he's always ridiculously efficient. Rondé, 7 points. Terrence Davis, 6 points. Matt Thomas hit a nice curl around screen, 4 points. And one thing I really wanted to bring up, it was a thought that came inside my head. Okay? We don't have Serge Ibaka on the court right now. Chris Boucher, we were arguing that he needs to develop a handle because he's going to be a true 3 in this league, because we thought, despite his great length and defensive instincts, we thought he'd be too small to be the center. And that's a fair criticism. We said about Siakam, it's not a knock on his game. We just thought that would be the best position for him. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, again, a career small forward, really rarely plays underneath the rim. Who would have thought that Chris Boucher and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson would just be offensive rebounding machines? They had 8 offensive rebounds off the bench between the two of them. That tied the whole tied the whole rest of the team. They're coming in with just so much energy on defense. Going to the rim, attacking on both ends. Looking for those rebounds, looking for shots underneath the rim. I've just been so impressed with two of those guys' energy, and I wouldn't mind seeing Chris Boucher get a few more minutes tonight. He only had 15 minutes, had 13 points in 15 minutes. Nurse, I know you're trying to run Siakam playing a lot of big minutes, and Marc Gasol, he struggled tonight, looked a bit tired, despite the fact and when we say Marc Gasol struggled, because this is a point I want to bring up as well, when we say Marc Gasol struggled, we have really high expectations for his game. He's been a 3-time All-Star. He came in, was really good in the playoffs, especially defensively. When we say Mark struggled, it's because we have the expectation he's going to be able to get us a few points. We have the expectation he's going to leave more of an impact on the game, because night in, night out, he plays great defense underneath the rim. That doesn't show up in the box score. He usually makes great passes for this team. Doesn't, aside from assists, it doesn't really show in the box score how fluid he is, but we'd like to see him be more aggressive. And I think he's been completely dogged on by Raptors fans, and fair enough, because I think he hasn't lived up to the expectations we probably expected, but he's been good. Marc Gasol is a starting center in this league, and maybe he's not as good as Serge Ibaka, but he's capable of playing as a starting center in this league. And I just want to give some love to Marc Gasol, because I feel like a lot of people are going to trash him for his performance last night. But he was a +7 for the game, did deal with some foul trouble, but while he hasn't been perfect, while he hasn't been maybe what we expected, he's been good. We can't be just completely bagging on the guy all year. So that's enough of the breakdown for this game. We're going to swing it straight into the segments. Tonight, the Spicy P lay of the day. It's going to Spicy P himself. We talked most of this podcast about Spicy P, but he had one of those clutch buckets I mentioned during my rant. At the end of this one, the Atlanta Hawks were coming back. Hunter were just on a 3-point tear at the stretch down the stretch of this one, despite the fact the Raptors looked like they had it in the bag. And Siakam, Nick Nurse elected to not take a timeout. I believe Norman Powell ran up the court and swung it to Siakam, who went in, got the and one kind of dunk to really put the nail in the coffin of the Atlanta Hawks. I know they hit a 3, I think, the possession after. Then Trae Young had a shot, an attempt to win it at the end, but that was the real play that won it for this team. So shout out to Spicy P getting those clutch dunks in this game. But not all plays can be the Spicy P lay of the day, and some just make you say, oh geez. And tonight, the oh geez play of the day, it could go to that run at the end of this one where the Hawks just seemingly hit everything, but it's going to TD, my guy TD, Terrence Davis. He's been playing really well for this Toronto Raptors team. He fouls up a little bit too much, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because he's playing great defense. He's not afraid of anyone. He always gets in the lane, to step in. He plays great on-ball defense, but tonight he found himself in the lane against Jabari Parker, and Jabari Parker is a phenomenal NBA talent. I'm a big fan of this guy. Him and Wiggins came into the league, and I had high expectations for the both of them, and they both kind of turned around their careers this season. I think Jabari Parker's was mostly derailed by injuries, but despite tearing his ACL a couple times and having a bit of foul trouble tonight, he came up and rose one up and threw one down over TD in the paint, and it was tough. I'm happy to see Jabari Parker not have those types of finishes and all that, but not against my guys, not against the Toronto Raptors. Made me say, oh geez, watching the screen, watching Jabari Parker throw those dunks down. And finally, the infamous, the one and only Damari Carroll Gold Star Award. And tonight, it's not going to any of the Raptors, despite the fact it was an ugly win. It was an ugly win for this team, but I want to talk about the Atlanta Hawks a little bit. The John Collins is getting the Damari Carroll Gold Star Award tonight because watching this team play, Trae Young is phenomenally talented. Hunter, he's showing that he's only a rookie. I believe he was the 4th pick. He's showing that he has a lot of talent on this team. They have some guys off the bench that are pretty good. shout out to Alan Crabb. He had a pretty solid night tonight. Even Vince was pretty good. Fernando, Len, Evan Turner. They have some names that are NBA players this season. They have a roster that I think should be better than the 4-12 record that they've shown. Bembry is a pretty solid guy in this league, but they need a big. They need a big that Trae Young can run pick and roll with, can feed down the lane and get you a few points, and kind of similar to what Siakam has given us the past 2 years. Obviously, he's the number one option this year. If they had Siakam on this team, then they'd be remarkably better. But, a guy that can get buckets, and even a Serge Ibaka type guy. Just can consistently score down the lane to combat runs. You're not worried about outside shooting and all that to really keep you in games. And I think that's been the biggest issue for the Hawks. But John Collins could fit that. I know he's not a true center, a true big man down low, and his kind of departure from the team, or the suspension, whatever they called it, it's been a revelation for Jabari Parker to get an opportunity. But I think they can run two of those guys in the front court, have a smaller ball lineup where they're quick, they're fast. They can still score in the paint with those two players down low. With Trae Young's excellence around the 3-point line, Hunter and Reddish didn't play tonight, but they have some talent, and I think they should be better. I think if John Collins didn't get hurt, they'd have if he didn't take steroids or whatever banned substance he was injecting, this team would be much better. And maybe people disagree. I know both teams didn't really have it all in them tonight, but the Hawks came out. I think they played a really, really gritty game, really gritty style of basketball. And I'd love to see Trae Young play with some better, or I guess these young guys will continue to improve. I'm sure we'll see that over the coming years. But John Collins is getting the DeMar Carroll Gold Star Award. But anyways, I'm ranted on long enough about this game. Sorry about the late reaction podcast. The reaction should be back on schedule for the next one against the Philadelphia 76ers. You're the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. The Toronto Raptors are really fun to watch this season, and stay tuned to the Raptors Digest for all Raptors content. Cheers.